Welcome back, deep divers. Ready to explore some seriously mind-bending philosophy?
I hope so. Buckle up, because today we're diving into René Descartes and in his famous method of doubt.
Yeah, this one's a classic, and it can get a little, trippy. But stick with us, because it's worth the mental workout.
Definitely. To really appreciate Descartes, we need to picture the world he lived in. So imagine Europe in the 1600s. Lots of upheaval, a lot of uncertainty. You have these groundbreaking scientific discoveries challenging old ways of thinking.
The Protestant Reformation shaking up the Catholic Church.
And yeah, skeptical thinkers basically questioning everything.
Not exactly a time of peace and tranquility.
No, not at all. And that's where Descartes comes in. He was right in the thick of it, looking for some solid ground, something, anything he could be absolutely certain about.
So, like, if everyone's questioning everything, how do you even know what's real anymore? How do you find truth in all that chaos?
Exactly. That was Descartes' big dilemma.
I can see why he felt the need to shake things up a bit.
Oh, he definitely shook things up. So he decided to go on this radical quest for certainty. But his approach was kind of, well, unique.
Unique how? Give us the rundown.
He decided to start by doubting everything. I mean, like, literally everything.
Hold on, doubting everything. How is that even helpful? Doesn't that just lead to, like, total paralysis?
Well, his idea was that by systematically doubting everything, he could eventually reach a point where he found something he absolutely couldn't doubt. Something unshakable. A bedrock of truth.
Okay, I see where he's going with this. It's kind of like clearing out all the clutter to find the one thing of value.
Exactly. Like, we're all searching for things we can be sure of, right? Things we can rely on, especially when the world feels uncertain.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Yeah.
who doesn't want a little bit of certainty in their lives? Especially when it seems like everything's constantly changing.
Right. So Descartes was looking for that solid foundation, and he started by taking aim at the things we perceive with our senses. You know, what we see, hear, touch, smell, taste.
Wait, so he's doubting our senses? Come on, isn't that a bit extreme? I mean, can't we trust what we see and hear?
He wasn't so sure. He pointed to things like optical illusions, you know? Have you ever seen a mirage in the desert or...
Oh yeah, those are trippy. And what about that thing where a stick looks bent when you put it in water?
Exactly. Descartes was like, if our senses can be tricked in one instance, how do we know they aren't tricking us all the time?
Okay, I'm starting to see his point. But where does he go from there?
Well, he takes this idea even further. He's like, what if everything we perceive is just an elaborate illusion?
Like the whole physical world. Come on, that's just crazy talk.
Maybe, maybe not. Think about dreams. They can feel incredibly real, right?
Yeah, I've definitely had those dreams where I wake up and I'm like, wait, was that real or?
Exactly. So Descartes takes this dream analogy and pushes it even further. He asks, how do we know for sure that we're not dreaming right now?
Whoa. Okay. That is kind of mind-blowing. So you're telling me there's a chance this entire deep dive is just a figment of my imagination?
It's a possibility, isn't it? How do you know for sure?
Well, when you put it like that, I guess I don't. Okay, my mind is officially blown. But let's say, for argument's sake, I entertain this wild notion that I might be dreaming. Where does Descartes go from there? He can't get much more radical than doubting the entire physical world, right?
Oh, he can. He goes even further. He even questions things we usually think of as absolutely unshakable. Math, for example. Even logic.
Math. He's doubting math. That's just crazy. 2 plus 2 has to equal 4, right? Why even bother doubting something so fundamental?
Well, his point was that even these seemingly unshakable truths could be manipulated. He introduced this idea of a malicious demon, like some powerful being that's messing with our minds.
Okay, now we're getting into some serious sci-fi territory. A demon controlling our reality and making us think 2 plus 2 equals 5.
Well, not exactly controlling reality, but maybe manipulating our perception of it, making us believe things that aren't actually true.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's like a cosmic conspiracy theory. But if we can doubt our senses, the physical world, and even math, is there anything left we can be certain about? It's starting to feel like we're falling down a philosophical rabbit hole.
That's a great question. And it leads us to Descartes' famous aha moment, the foundation of his whole philosophy.
All right, so we've doubted pretty much everything at this point. Our senses, the physical world, even math. It's all very thought-provoking. But did this radical doubt actually lead Descartes anywhere? Or was he just like stuck in a perpetual state of skepticism?
That's the cool part. Descartes' method of doubt, as out there as it might seem, actually had a huge impact on how we think about knowledge and, believe it or not, on the scientific method.
Wait, really? The scientific method? How does doubting everything lead to scientific discovery? That seems like kind of a leap.
Not really when you think about it. Scientists at their core are skeptics. They're always questioning things, right? They test their hypotheses, look for evidence. Everything has to be backed up.
Yeah, you're right. They don't just take things at face value. They want to figure out how W things work in WHY.
Exactly. And that skeptical questioning approach is basically what Descartes' method is all about. He showed us how important it is to not just blindly accept stuff.
Especially these days, right? I mean,
Sure.
we're bombarded with information 24/7. It's hard to know what to believe.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where critical thinking comes in, which is another big part of Descartes' legacy. His method basically encourages us to examine our own beliefs, to be aware of our biases, and to be open to changing our minds when new evidence comes along.
So it's not about rejecting everything outright, but being like a healthy skeptic,
Yeah.
always willing to learn and grow.
You got it. It's about being an independent thinker, not just following the crowd, but thinking for yourself. That's crucial for progress no matter what you're doing. Science, philosophy, just trying to make sense of the world, anything.
It's pretty cool to think we all have the ability to be critical thinkers, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be some big shot philosopher or scientist to question things and look for evidence.
Right. Descartes basically gave us the tools to do that in our everyday lives. Think about it. How often do we just accept things without really questioning them? News headlines, social media posts, all that stuff. Sometimes things we've believed our whole lives because that's what we were taught as kids.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm scrolling through social media. It's so easy to just get swept up in everything. All the opinions, all the noise.
Exactly. But Descartes is like, hold on a sec. What evidence is there for that? What's the other side of the story? Am I letting my own biases cloud my judgment?
So it's like a mental checklist, something to keep in mind when we're trying to figure out what to believe.
Yeah, it's about being mindful, about what we choose to accept as true.
Okay, so we've got the scientific method, critical thinking. Did Descartes' method have any other lasting impacts?
Well, if we're talking philosophy, Descartes is a key figure in foundationalism.
Foundationalism. That sounds kind of heavy. What does that even mean?
Imagine you're building a house. You need a strong foundation, right, to support everything else. Well, foundationalism is basically the idea that knowledge works the same way. We need some basic, rock-solid truths to build our understanding on.
Okay. So it goes back to Descartes' whole search for that one undeniable truth. I think, therefore I am. That's what he built his whole system of knowledge on, right?
Exactly. He believed that from that one truth, using logic and reason, we could figure out other truths about the world.
So even though philosophers today might debate the specifics, Descartes' focus on finding those secure foundations for knowledge, that's still a big part of philosophical discussions today.
For sure. But, the impact of the method of doubt, it goes way beyond just science and philosophy. It can also change how we think about our own personal beliefs, in our everyday lives.
Now, that's what I'm talking about. How can something as abstract as the method of doubt actually apply to, like, my normal life?
Well, think about all the things you believe. Some of those beliefs might be based on things you've always been told, or maybe assumptions you've never really questioned. Descartes would be like, hey, take a closer look at those beliefs. Why do you believe that? What evidence supports it? Is there another perspective you haven't considered?
So it's like taking that same skeptical, questioning attitude and applying it to our own personal beliefs,
Whoa.
our own assumptions about the world.
Exactly. It's about challenging yourself, thinking critically about why you believe the things you believe, because even our most deeply held beliefs, they can be examined and questioned.
It's like he's saying, don't be afraid to question your own convictions. I like that. But honestly, doesn't all this questioning make life a little chaotic? I mean, don't we need some certainty to function?
That's a good point. It's not about becoming some kind of, paralyzed skeptic, someone who doubts their own coffee cup exists. It's about finding that sweet spot between healthy skepticism and actually, making decisions and moving forward in life.
But how do we find that balance?
By realizing that certainty, well, it's often kind of slippery. We don't always have all the answers, and that's okay. The important thing is to keep asking questions, keep searching for understanding. The journey is just as important as the destination.
It's about being open to the unknown, recognizing that learning is a lifelong thing.
You got it. Descartes was all about finding certainty, but in the end, his method teaches us that it's all right to live with a little uncertainty. It's in that space of not knowing that we can be open to new possibilities and new ways of seeing the world.
Wow, this deep dive has really taken us down the rabbit hole. I mean, we've doubted everything from our own senses to the whole physical world, even the idea that 2 plus 2 equals 4. It's enough to make your head spin.
It is pretty wild when you think about it, right? Descartes really pushed the boundaries of what we can know and how we know it.
Yeah, and I gotta admit, at first, I thought it was all a bit too much. Like, doubting everything, come on. But, as we've been talking, I'm starting to see the value in questioning our assumptions and looking for evidence.
It's like he gave us this toolkit for thinking critically, you know? A
Yeah.
way to approach the world with a more discerning eye.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not about being a total cynic and distrusting everyone and everything. It's more about having a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right. It's about being curious and asking those tough questions like, what's the evidence for this claim? Is there another side to the story? Am I being swayed by my own biases?
Especially these days, with the internet and all the information overload, it's so important to be able to filter through all the noise.
Absolutely. And that's where Descartes' method of doubt really shines. It gives us the tools to step back, think critically, and ultimately decide for ourselves what we believe.
It's like a mental filter, helping us sort out what's true and what's not. And it's also, in a way, kind of empowering, don't you think?
Totally. It's about taking control of what we believe,
Yeah.
Not just blindly accepting what we're told or what everyone else thinks.
It's about recognizing that we have the ability to think for ourselves, to challenge authority, and to come to our own conclusions.
Exactly. It's about becoming independent thinkers, not just, passively absorbing information. And that's a powerful thing.
It is, and that's a legacy that stretches far beyond Descartes' time. His ideas are still relevant today. They inspire us to be more curious, more critical, more engaged with the world around us.
Well said.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Descartes and his method of doubt, I think the takeaway here is pretty clear. There's real power in questioning assumptions, demanding evidence, and thinking critically. It's not about tearing everything down, but about building a stronger understanding of ourselves and the world.
Beautifully put. Even if we don't agree with everything Descartes said, his emphasis on critical thinking is a gift that keeps on giving.
So, to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to embrace the spirit of Descartes. Don't be afraid to question things, challenge the status quo, think differently. Remember, the journey of learning and discovery, that's just as important as finding the answer.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Keep those minds sharp, folks, and never stop exploring the world with a curious and critical eye.
And until next time, may your doubts lead you to new insights. We'll catch you on the flip side.